Hi everybody, thank you for joining me. I hope you're well, I hope you're doing better than I have been recently. Thank you for your letters and messages of support while I've been poorly. If you watched my last video, you'll know I lost my vision because of a migraine halfway through my shave, and I went from that straight into having the flu. And I've had it pretty bad. It's still got a hand on my shoulder. I can't work out whether I'm too hot or too cold. I'm still shivering. But I am much improved. So thank you. I thought I would sit down and just have a chat to you today with a cup of coffee, as is normal. So welcome to Friendship Shaving. And welcome to a Sunday sit down. Now my coffee today is from a German company called Imping. It is a Cuban coffee from the high mountain slopes of Santa Clara. And before we start, I'd like to just thank my friend Oliver for sending it over. Dankeschön, Oliver, für meine Geschenke. Der Kaffee ist gut. And that is as much German as I can manage. The coffee is tastes of chocolate and hazelnuts. Tastes like a Ferrero Rocher. No, I'm not sure that's a good endorsement, is it, of the coffee? But it's very, very nice. It was coffee beans. I had to crush it up myself. I've not done that before. Now, let's get to it, shall we? In my last video, which was on Remembrance Sunday, I was interested in what razors would have been available for my grandfathers to shave with during their experiences in World War I. And I've been able to do a little bit of research on that. Excuse me. I've been watching little bits of a Peter Jackson film called They Shall Not Grow Old. Now what Mr. Jackson has done, he has taken actual footage of the First World War and he's narrated that with the voices of old soldiers that were young boys during that time. It is excellent, and the images have been colorized and the scenes of the front are horrific. They really are. But what has most interested me is that during World War I, straight razors were still largely used and preferred by the soldiers. And when you enlisted as a young man to join the army, a straight razor was given to you as part of your kit. Now it does say in this film that they weren't much good, and they used those in the trenches just for cutting up bits of meat or whatever. But in letters home, requests for new razors and new strops were apparently very commonplace. So that was the first thing that was a real surprise to me, because Gillette bought out their safety razor in 1904. I know that the Germans were very close behind them in copying that idea, and then and of course they had their own style of safety razors as well. So for example, I think it is the Henkel's Rapide. The name just went out of my head there. I'll come to that more later. But it surprised me that straight razors were still being used. And There's another great bit of social history, and I'll provide the link. It's an interview again with an old soldier, and he comments that soldiers used to shave each other because it was a lot easier than finding somewhere to prop up your little mirror in amongst the mud and everything else. So that soldiers shaving each other was in fact easier, and he said that you could always tell the soldiers that had problems with their nerves. Now, you know, we all know it was a lot more than problems with their nerves. You know, really, really sad. But so there we are. It was easier for somebody else to shave you. But in this piece of social history, in this interview, he mentions that he found a place to have a shave. He had a new safety razor, and he had a shave, and when he came out, the officer that walked past said, "Oh, nice shave." And the officer was so intrigued by the safety razor, the new fangled safety razor, that he made the soldier shave it. I think that's really interesting. Oh my goodness, that's good. Just as an aside, I'm reading this. When the lamps go out, it's based on a famous quote from that time. It's a real piece of social history. And it's a collection of articles, news articles from the Manchester Guardian, from reporters that actually were on the front line. And it covers the period leading into the First World War and, of course, the war itself. Absolutely fascinating if you know, if you're interested in that sort of thing. And the Manchester Guardian went on to become the Guardian. A real interesting look at snippets of history. Anyway, now I did wonder if my grandfathers would have had access to a Gillette razor, or whether they would only have British razors. Now I found an advert on the Mr. Razor website, an English advert from 1916 for, I'm just going to have a look to remind myself, for the Gillette Standard set, which was 21 shillings or 1 guinea, which was £1 and a shilling back in those days. So quite expensive, from Gillette of Portland Street, London. And it shows the picture, and I'll include the link to that so you can see it for yourself. That is from 1916, so it proves that Gillette razors in that time were coming over to the UK. And I've actually got one, some of you will have seen from the Facebook group, but this is my Gillette Standard set. Now I've had to restore this, and I'll talk about that a little more at another time. Interestingly, there's a flat spot on the leather right where my thumb is, and I think it's where a gentleman would have held his case to open it with his right hand, because there's a tear in the leather here. It's actually hanging on for grim death, this is. So I'm not going to do much with that. I've actually ordered, this is covered in shark skin by the way, and I've actually ordered a little bit of shark skin just to see if I can glue something to the back of this to protect it, because this is always the bit that goes, and you lose, look, you lose that beautiful press stud with the Gillette mark on it. So inside it has made in the USA, known the world over, and that's the clue. That's the clue that it's been sent out to other parts of the world. It's got the little case. It's only got one of these, so I'm after another one of those at some point. And going to try and get some original razor blades, not the blues, the ones before that, just to go in there, the 3-hole razor blades. And the razor itself is very bright, so I'm going to hold it back here. It is triple plated silver. It has been used because the knurling on the handle is worn, and if I take it apart, it has the serial number D229473. I wonder if you will be able to catch that in the light. There we are. So now that would have been available, not in the military of course. I've already said they used to give you a straight razor, but it would have been available for friends, relatives, parents of the boys at the front line to buy and send to the boys. And if you think about that, that's a genius bit of marketing. I've found out that in the US, well, I knew this already, but in the US, razors with the J letter designated that they were for the military, and many were made by Gillette for the US military. But the lovely shaving kits, the military kits with the beautifully chromed cases, with the US, there's a Navy one, isn't there, and there's an Army one, and there's a Canadian military case. They weren't given out to the military, they were for general sale to the public, so that people would buy them and send them out to the boys at the front. So genius bit of marketing. But I'm really happy that while it's not a military razor, it is a razor that my grandfathers may have used. They may have actually used this one. And better yet, on the underside here, I know you won't be able to see because of the light bouncing off it, but it has a Gillette kite mark, and it actually says known the world over. So I know that that razor goes with that case, and I am beyond chuffed with that. I will be shaving with that on my next shave, so I'm just chuffed to bits with that. The case has come up beautifully. I'm chuffed, really, really pleased. It surprised me, and I know it probably shouldn't, but it surprised me how much communication and trade there was between America and Europe. There was another razor. I thought it was a British razor, but it's not. It's an American razor. It is the Auto-Strop. Slightly different style of razor. The Auto-Strop, invented by Henry Giesman. I'm pretty sure that's how you say it. Henry Jacques Giesman. Now he was Gillette's main competitor, and boy, he was a rich man. But he invented the Auto-Strop razor. Apparently, looking into this, Gillette and Auto-Strop were always up in the courts disputing patents, and really interesting. And when Gillette brought out the new slotted razor blade for the Gillette New, Mr. Giesman already owned the patent for it, and in the end Gillette bought out the company for much more than it was worth and installed Mr. Giesman as an executive at Gillette. fascinating. Now, Mr. Giesman, because the razor, the Autostrop, was still his razor, he continued to produce it. And the later models even have Gillette. The Gillette mark on it is a Gillette Autostrop, but that is much later. Excuse me. But they were available during the war, and they were certainly available in the UK, along with another type of razor called a Clamac. Now these razors used a razor blade, but you had to strop the razor blade to make it last longer, because, believe it or not, during that time when Gillette brought out their safety razor, people thought it was incredibly wasteful to throw away a razor blade when they'd been used to honing and stropping their razors and making them last. And that was Gillette's big advertising logo, wasn't it? No stropping, no honing. But many people didn't get on with that. So these Clamac and the Auto-Strop razors, I've got a couple of pictures. Look, there's the Clamac. Now these are quite rare. I've not seen many of those for sale on eBay. But also this is a couple of Auto-Strop pictures. That was originally called the Auto-Strop, but later on it became known as the Valet Auto-Strop. You are looking, if you want one from the period of the war, you are looking for an A2 or a B1, and I'll put a link in so you can search for the different types of Auto-Strops. If you just type Auto-Strop in the search bar, it'll give you pictures and descriptions of all of them, and there are lots. Really an ingenious razor. I'm just trying to find a better picture. Here we go. Here we go, there we go. So you can see what they were like, but it is an adjustable razor. There's a little handle. Can you see the handle at the back? That moves the blade further forward or further backwards to make it a more aggressive or a milder shave. So it was a very clever and a very popular razor. And I think that idea of being thrifty really continued on, probably up until the 1960s, because don't forget a Wilkinson sword razor and the Rolls razor, which used an actual, you know, like a short straight razor blade, if you like, rather than the traditional razor blade that we know today. They were still being produced in the 50s. So I think that idea of being thrifty and making your razor blade last really appealed to people and made sense, and perhaps we're coming back to that with this fashion, if you like, these days for using straight razors again. Perhaps we're trying to get away in our use of safety razors even from the throwaway society that our world has become. I don't know, but yes, Autostrop was super successful, bought out by Gillette, as were another company with a very similar design to the Autostrop, was the 7 o'clock razor. The strop came in the lid. It was a very similar style, bought out by Gillette, as some of you know. Their later razors are quite well known, but their earlier ones not so much so. Of course, there were the ever-ready razors that also would have been available during the wartime. Not the 1912, I don't think. I think they were later. They would have been more the lather catchers. And as I say, in Germany, I know that they were Molkuto were a famous company making razors from 1906. Henkel's at the Twin Works started to branch out from straight razors into safety razors. So a very, very interesting area for me to look at, and well, I hope you have found it as interesting as I obviously do. I like an Autostrop, but I think I'm going to go with one of the later ones rather than one of the earlier ones from the First World War, because they improved them as they went on, and I wouldn't mind getting one with the Gillette mark on and a nice leather case. As I say, the star of the show today is my little, look at that, I love this. It's come up very well. I'm actually, you can see on here where you maybe can't because of the light, but where the teeth on the razor have caught on this thin material, it's snagged it a little bit, and I want to protect that, so I'm thinking of cutting a little piece of clear plastic and just putting it in the lid just to protect that and make it last another 100 years. So that is the razor that you will see next time I shave. I'm going to leave it at that because I'm sweating like a pig here. I'm not doing too well. You didn't need to know that, did you? I'm sorry about that. You take care of yourselves this Sunday. Be well. I'll see you very shortly. Take care. All the very best now. Bye-bye.